legends come to fight. Bodies, passion, dreams ignite under the neon lights. Oh yeah, Palm Davies, the voice calling every move. Amy Vaughn and the trivia getting you in the groove. Oh yeah. Feel the energy, the thunder as the crowd begins to roar. High flying daredevils in a battle like never before. Oh yeah, from the turnbuckle to the mat, the action never stops. Talking wrestling takes you to the top. Oh yeah, feel the energy, the thunder as the crowd begins to roar. High flying daredevils in a battle like never before. Oh yeah, from the turnbuckle to the mat, the action never stops. Talking wrestling takes you to the top. Oh yeah, talking wrestling, it's a war right from suplexes to body slams. We got it all inside, get ready for excitement, that's on the show. Talking wrestling is ready to throw down. Oh yeah. Woo,
All right, welcome in for another episode of Talking Wrestling. I'm Palm Water Dave. Flying solo tonight. Amy's out doing whatever, and we know where her priorities are, but it's all right. We're okay with it. But joining us tonight, AIWF. Also, do I have this right? Intense Action Wrestling.
No.
Are you also with Intense AIW? I know AIWF.
No, I've never worked for them.
Okay. Strong Style Pro Extreme Tag Team Champion James Harris.
There we go.
Welcome to the show, James.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I knew AIWF. I'd seen you on AIWF Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, I've been over there a couple times.
I saw you. It was a hardcore match. Hardcore match against Ty.
Ty Tyson.
Yeah, I had a senior moment on that last name. It'll happen.
Okay, it happens to all of us.
It happens to me more often than not. But anyway, tell us a little bit about yourself. How long you been wrestling? When'd you get started?
Oh, dude, it's been close to 10 years at this point. Started training, and about 8 since I made my pro debut.
Okay, where'd you train?
Because I started training. I trained at Strong's. Well, at the time it was Shooters Academy in Lynchburg, Virginia, now branded as the Strong Style Performance Center, which is based out of Madison Heights, Virginia.
Okay. Who trained you?
So that would be Billy Warlock. Would be the head guy on that front.
Okay.
I also there was AC Collins as well. He had a hand in the cookie jar.
And where'd you debut at?
So I debuted for my first match was Strong Style Pro, and it was in Amherst, Virginia.
Okay.
That was against Psycho Carl.
Psycho Carl.
Yeah, Psycho Carl. That man who I've had quite a few wars with him over the years.
Well, what made you decide to be a wrestler? Had you always been a lifelong fan, or did it come to you later?
Oh yeah, dude. So I remember like I was 2-3 years old, man, watching guys like Stone Cold and The Undertaker and Tommy Dreamer and Raven, and just thinking it was the coolest thing ever, and just immediately wanting to be one of those guys. And the love for it and the passion just kind of grew more and more the older I got. And there was a point where I thought maybe it wouldn't have happened. And then when I turned 17, I had actually gotten a tip that a wrestling school had opened like 20 minutes from where I was living at the time. And so I got in touch with Billy, And from that point, the rest is history.
Well, we mentioned that. You mentioned that you. We're all. I mean, I know that you're in the AIWF. Has it just been the North Carolina area, or have you gone to different AIWF territories? Or
So the only shows I have worked for AIWF were the couple that I worked in North Carolina.
okay,
My exposure's only been to Virginia, North Carolina, West Virginia. I do want to branch out a lot more for states I've hit.
so the promotion that you mainly work for, Strong Style Pro.
Yes, that would be my home.
Okay.
Now, don't get me wrong, I'm always up for going other places and traveling and new experiences, but Strong Style Pro is where I call home.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mainly call BIW, Bayou Independent Wrestling, home, but when Lost Art of Wrestling or any of the others call, I'm happy to get in the car and go.
Yeah, you ain't wrong, man. Get that phone call and it's excitement all over again. I just as a matter of fact, nailed down my first booking for 2025, and it's with a new promotion out of North Carolina.
Our friend Darren Staley is North Carolina, best state ever or greatest state ever? Can you tell us who you're going to be, where you're going to be in North Carolina?
It's going to be ALW. It's going to be shit. What was the name of the town? Burlington. Sorry, I had one of them what you call senior moments, and I'm only 28.
It's all downhill from there. Hey, but I had something. I don't know if you're familiar with world class wrestling from back in the day, but that's what I grew up on. And they had an old referee named Bronco Lubitsch, and everybody says that Bronco wouldn't get down to count and everything. I just recently learned that I'm 2 years older than Bronco was when I was watching him.
Oh no!
So I take that as a win because I can still get down and get back up.
So I have definitely had my exposure to the old school content, the world class, the WCW, the old school NWA. But when I was born, it was WWF at the time. It was right. WCW Nitro. It was ECW. Those big ones when I was growing up. So that was my first exposure. That's
kind of a golden age to be exposed to. The Monday Night
Wars,
of
course, man.
The Attitude Era.
Oh, definitely.
And then of course, I can tell that it seems like you've been influenced more by ECW though, because most of the things I've been able to track down on you it's hardcore. You got a baseball bat with barbed wire on it. So do you prefer the hardcore style?
So I'll wrestle whatever I'm asked to. What I can do the traditional singles matches. I can do the tag team matches with Rex Keller. I'm glad to do the hardcore matches. I always have a lot of fun with them. Just to this point, for some reason, people like pointing cameras at me more when I'm swinging a barbed wire wrap baseball bat. So, but I like any chance I can get in that ring, man. It's the love for it. It's whenever I can get in there, I'm gonna do it.
I often tell promoters that I don't mind being the only referee because I'm there and it gets me in the ring more. Because it's never not a thrill to climb between those ropes. It's a privilege. Correct.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So any opportunity I can be given to get in that ring, and I can accept that opportunity, I'm gonna take it.
Well, you mentioned you're in the tag team. Did you say the fellow's name is Rex Keller?
Yes.
The
that would be my tag partner.
So how long have y'all been the tag team champions?
Okay, so we just won the Strong Style Pro Tag titles for the second time back in October.
Okay.
So we're going on 3 months right now. For that, we held our pro tag team titles one other time, and then we had held a set of tag titles for a company called Shockwave a few years back. So altogether, a 3-time tag team championship group.
Oh, so y'all been together for a while.
Oh, dude, me and Rex first started teaming 2017, 2018. I was still very early in my career, and Rex debuted as part of our tag team.
Okay. Did y'all
Yeah,
just
so
meet
me and Rex have been. Oh, dude. So we were both at a seminar for Arn Anderson, and this was up in the Shenandoah Valley down here in Virginia. And Arn Anderson was doing a seminar, and we were both down there, and we met, and we kind of started talking back and forth, formed that friendship, and from there, like, the idea grew bigger and bigger, and from there, it was just the team was formed, and we debuted the team, and it was a smash, like, right out the gate.
Let's circle back to this Arn Anderson seminar, and everybody needs to go to Twitter and tweet Amy, who fancies herself the first lady of the Arn Anderson fan club, that we're talking Arn Anderson without her. Y'all make her feel real bad. So what does
I can make her feel real bad about that one.
So what do you get? I mean, what all does Arn Anderson cover at a seminar? I got to imagine he would try to prepare you for television. Am I right?
Yes, sir. So going into the seminar, a lot of us weren't expecting a lot of in-ring work because at this point in time, Arn Anderson, he's had a lot of neck issues, and Arn got in between those ropes and actually rolled around with us. Like, he was in there working holds with us, like wrestling with us. Like, he is a very hands-on instructor.
Oh. I can't.
And I remember
only imagine.
I was the first kid that got to lock up with him that day.
Man,
dude, it was really cool. It was by far one of my favorite things I've gotten to do.
He seems like he would be the best teacher because he understands it so well, and then he's also works behind the scenes for so many years that kind of knowledge is invaluable. So you don't shoot yourself in the foot when you first get an opportunity.
Right. So by far, Arn Anderson is like at the top of the list of guys I've gotten to meet in this business and learn from. Now, don't get me wrong, I have met my share, but Arn Anderson, he's up there.
It's funny. When I went to wrestling school, my trainer asked me, "What wrestler do you most want to pattern your style on?" And I said, "Oh, Arn Anderson or Tully Blanchard." And the dude did not know much about Arn Anderson, and I was like, I had to. It kind of it floored me. I mean, because it was,
dude.
Well, I mean, it was 2005, but still.
I mean, anybody in this wrestling business, man, like, to not know who that is.
Well, he heard of him, but he wasn't familiar with his. He wasn't familiar with his work. Like, he hadn't watched Arn Anderson. But his path into the wrestling business was MMA transitioning into pro wrestling. So it was more of he didn't come in as a fan chasing his dream. He was shifting from one discipline to another for money.
Right, one combat.
And there's nothing wrong with
another. Yeah, I got you.
But not being in the squared circle and not knowing Arn Anderson's background was mind blowing.
So, yeah, that's a new one.
Because
man, everybody else I've met, like you mentioned Arn Anderson, and it's just like, whew.
Oh yeah, all-time top 5.
Of course,
I truly believe if he'd been 10 years earlier, that he probably could have been NWA champion.
Hands down, he very much could have.
I mean, I think he fit the Funk Briscoe template, and I think. But once Ric Flair took over, it was. I mean, but Arn did well for himself.
He did, and I mean, you saying he could have been a world champion? There's a long out there that could have been a world champion that didn't get that shot.
Yeah, I mean, once Flair got it, they were off to the races.
Man, I can think off my head. Roddy Piper and William Regal 100% should have been a WWE champion at some point.
Oh yeah, I don't disagree. I don't know that Roddy. Well, I think Roddy could have, but I don't think he ever needed it.
He didn't, but it would have been nice to see him at least get that at least once. He'd have deserved that.
I think Ted DiBiase was the biggest miss in the NWA and the WWF, as far as a title run.
Yeah, there was a lot of potential for that just didn't sit, or that didn't flow like it should have.
Darren Staley said Piper never had it. He did not know that.
No,
and no,
Roddy
Piper had the
never won a world title
once, but as a matter of fact,
never the WWF title.
It was a problem. It was a problem. He didn't trust. He didn't put anybody over because he didn't trust anybody to put him back over. Is what I'd heard.
Yeah, at that time it was Hogan, it was Brett, it was Warrior, it was Andre.
But I guess if the timing would have been a little bit different, had the steroid trial happened 5 years earlier, maybe he would have got a nod.
Yeah,
they got away from the monster. They got away from the monster body type when that was going on.
Yeah, that's very valid, actually.
But my first exposure to Roddy Piper was he was doing commentary. He was commentating with Gordon Soley on Georgia Championship Wrestling, and I didn't.
Oh.
And he was being just a real prick all the time. But then when somebody tried to jump on Gordon, he came to his rescue, and the crowd just wanted to love him anyway.
My first exposure to Piper was his WrestleMania match with Brett. Was the first match I ever saw of Piper's.
Oh yeah, and he's right. That Andrew points out he was the U.S. champion in the NWA.
Yeah, the U.S. champion.
I sometimes forget, except for when I watch Starrcade, the dog collar match with Valentine. But I almost forget. I relate Piper more to his WWF run than his NWA. Even though my first exposure to him, just because well, WrestleMania 1, the Rock and Wrestling connection, that whole thing. I mean, it was lightning in a bottle for him.
Oh, you're not wrong, man. It was a lot of really good stuff back then, man. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good stuff coming up now, but
oh yeah, I think this is the best possible time to be a wrestling fan. We're missing doing this show. We're missing wrestling. You can watch wrestling 7 nights a week if you want to now.
It's on. Yeah, I watched the GCW. Watch it all.
I'm sorry, James, you froze up. I didn't catch any of that.
Okay, there it is. I watch it all, man. Between WWE, Ring of Japan, everything.
Yeah, the indies are hotter than ever. We lost James. Until we get him back, welcome to the last show of 2024. Willie Buck's here with us, Darren Staley, Andrew Hermes. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're glad you're with us. Well, I say us, me. Ben Jones. Ben Jones from Australia. Let's see if we get James back in here. There we go.
There we go. Had to fix my Wi-Fi there. You should be
That's
all right
okay.
now.
We're good. That's the fun part about doing it live is anything can happen.
Yeah, anything and everything, and usually what can happen will.
So you were mentioning I heard you say you watch New Japan. What did I hear you say? GCW?
Yes. Yeah, I've been on a big GCW binge lately, but I watch anything, dude. Like just anything wrestling related, I will watch all of it.
I've branched out here lately and started watching some TNA, watching some NXT. We watched MLW the other night when Eric Bischoff was on, and there's just so much quality wrestling. And even I watched the show that you were on, the AIWF Mid Atlantic,
Huh?
a 45-minute wrestling YouTube show.
Yep.
With commercials, with production value. They had a commercial with the Boogie Woogie Man where he bit a hot dog and he turned into a big guy. He started chopping everybody. I mean, because I saw the sponsor, some kind of hot dog, but I mean,
oh, dude, I remember the commercial you're talking about.
But it was just, it took me a second to realize it was a commercial. I was like, what is this? And then I got it that was the sponsor. But I'm just saying, there's so much quality wrestling out here.
You're not wrong, man.
Not to mention with WWE's doing in the indies now with the WWE ID.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens with that.
Well, if it went down like I said, like I heard it did, it's basically paying an independent wrestler $40,000 a year to chase their dream, to supplement their income while they do it.
Where can I sign up?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I don't know if you get to sign up for that. I think you got to be. I think it's a selectee kind of deal, but
yeah, I think so too. It'd be nice.
And the NWA is bringing the territory system back.
Yep, I heard about that too. That's something I would very much like to be a part of, man. Even down here in this small little nook I'm in, there's not a lot of promotions working together anymore in that sort of fashion.
Right.
Like there's 4 promotions down here in my area alone, and just none of them cooperate with each other. None of them collaborate. None of that.
And they don't realize that it would make their product so much better if they did. Because
right.
The promotion I work for doesn't really work with the other promotions, but they kind of respect, like, if X wrestler is doing this and for them on a weekly basis, when he comes in for a one shot for us, he doesn't, he kind of helps keep him where he's going there.
Right. And see, that's not something we get down here. And to be honest, dude, I've been in that situation where something I was doing over here got crapped on because I went over here.
Yeah. And there's enough out there for everybody now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless they're setting up unless they're running the same buildings, the same town, counter programming them and trying to, that kind of stuff's horrible. But if they're running 25, 30 miles away, it shouldn't matter. And there's going to be overlap.
Right. But we're over here running like 15 miles apart.
Yeah.
And I'm over here feuding with one guy, and next thing you know, it gets hyped up that I'm going to be tag teaming with him on another show.
Yeah, and everybody says, the cat's out of the bag, but people still want to believe, and that does make a big difference.
Mm-hmm. People still want to believe, and Billy said this to me years ago, and I stick by it. I can't make you believe professional wrestling is real, but I can make you believe I am.
Yes. 100%.
So to whatever extent I can still maintain the magic, I'm gonna do it.
When you're in there and the crowd's not in, it's not a better feeling. When pro wrestling works, there's nothing better.
Mhm. And dude, honestly, it benefits a lot better when these promotions that are like so close together aren't afraid to work together every once in a while. Because then you get a wider talent pool. You get different matches. You get more experience for the guys in the locker room. Instead of these two promotions over here running the identical card because they don't want to book guys from over here.
Yeah. Everybody the experience will make everybody better, and that's what I like about Matt Classic Creed. You know, he's got AIWF. It's worldwide. He tries to network. He tries to network people. He tries, hey, what do you need? And he tries to help people. And then he was like, hey, do you want to be on a podcast? I got several that, you know.
Right. That's how I got hooked up with you for this.
I know. But that guy is just out there and he's pushing his brand, but he's not doing it like for him. He generally seems to try to be making it all better for everybody.
Right. And that's the goal. Our product, whether it be one banner or another, one show or another, the ultimate goal should be pro wrestling being better for everybody.
Exactly. And when he sends his champion to your territory to defend, it's a big deal. It's something that your fan base is like, oh, that's different. Just even one of our wrestlers that wrestles at BIW pretty regular, Barrett Brown, he's the junior heavyweight champion, but he defended it on one of our shows one time, and the fans really responded to it. And it wasn't even like we brought him in and he would. And that wasn't how he was billed. He was just already there, and hey, I got this title, I'm going to defend it. But the novelty of it, our fans, they ate it up. So,
dude, and that's the thing, man. You got something like that happening, and all of a sudden, people are like, "Oh, here's the AIWF World Champion Greg Anthony, and he's coming over here to defend his title in Little Lynchburg, Virginia. That's a huge deal. This is a world renowned. This is like a world renowned, recognized belt being defended here. So without a doubt, it's definitely something to bring a lot of eyes to your product.
It's a win-win for everybody, and it's like the promotion that's running close to y'all. Y'all should be defending. They would say y'all should be defending your tag team belts there. Or we had a similar situation here in Mississippi with a couple of promotions that you were one or the other.
Right.
But then they figured out that they're using they could use the same guys, and then all of a sudden their tag team champions come over and take the other tag team belts, and then it's a whole pride thing that they've captured our tag belts, and everybody's shows got bigger and better for it.
Well, see, one thing, this is something I really love about Billy and Strong Style Pro. The Extreme Championship that I currently hold is a modern take on the old school 24/7 WWF Hardcore title. I am cleared to defend that title wherever I want. Whether it be in an SSP ring, whether it be in a AIWF ring, whether it be in a McDonald's parking lot, I'm clear to defend that belt. So, and that's something that I really enjoy having the possibility of doing, because it's something not a lot of people get to do anymore. It's something different. Like, it's been so long since there's been one of those championship titles where you could be in the middle of having dinner at this little restaurant. Next thing you know, all of a sudden, boom, there's a title match.
Right.
It's a wild thing. Like,
and with streaming and YouTube, you can do that now, and I think it's great. How long have you been the Extreme Champion?
Since June.
Who'd you beat?
So I am actually the inaugural Strong Style Pro Extreme Champion. I am the first and only guy to hold that title to this point.
Well, there you go. Tournament?
No, it was just a one-off deal. It was me versus Ali Primo in a Falls County Anywhere street fight, and Billy decided that he wanted to bring in something different. He wanted something fresh. And when we got to talking about it, because like I told you, I'm okay doing anything when it comes to the ring. I'll do the hardcore, I'll do the tag team. When everybody nowadays thinks hardcore wrestling, they immediately gravitate to deathmatch. They immediately gravitate to light tubes and barbed wire and thumbtacks. And our viewpoint on it was that wasn't the old school hardcore methodology. The old school way of being hardcore was being the toughest guy in any room under any circumstances. It wasn't always about blood and mutilation and who can have the most skewers stuck in their head. It was about making the most of what you got and just being that tough of a dude and being ready to defend that title wherever, whenever, however.
See, I like that because that's you using your skills instead of, I mean, I cringe at thumbtacks. I don't want to see thumbtacks anymore. I like the idea of coming down and using whatever's around the ring. Like if there's a toolbox under the ring,
cool.
But glass and thumbtacks, things that you wouldn't normally find under a ring. And I understand that people like it, but I prefer just to, like before there was an Extreme Championship, there was a Brass Knuckles Championship, and it wasn't like they were using brass knuckles. It was just that it was a tough guy contest.
So I'm in firm belief there's a place for everything in professional wrestling. There's a place for the death match. There's a place for tag team. There's a place for the lingerie wrestling, whatever. There's a place for everything. But, and don't get me wrong, I am not against the deathmatch stuff. I have several friends that are in the deathmatch scene. I would be willing to do it. But, sorry, I just saw my 10-month-old step out of a straw for the first time. Okay.
Oh.
Anyway.
I thought your wife was telling you you're not doing it.
No. She was showing me my 10-month-old stepping out of a straw for the first time. Okay. Like I was saying, I think there's a place for everything, but there's definitely a distinction between hardcore and deathmatch. When I think hardcore, I go back to Crash Holly, to Steve Blackman, Hardcore Holly, Al Snow, those type guys. Those were guys that on any given night were by far among the toughest in the locker room. But how often did you see them go out there and mutilate themselves? How often did you see Al Snow break out the barbed wire bat on Road Dogg? Like, it almost never happened.
Right.
It was all about being the toughest guy with your surroundings. So, like, if you got to the back and there was a floor tile back there, you hit him with the floor tile. You go back a little bit further, you find a trash can. Bam, trash can. It was all about making the most of what you had.
Right.
And using that to your advantage instead of glass and barbed wire and everything being strategically placed under the ring. Which, don't get me wrong, I am 100% the guy that in a lot of my hardcore matches, I will go raid the dollar store. I've done it several times.
Well, my thing about death matches is that the pay should have a comma and some zeros. That's the part about the death match that bothers me the most is doing. I mean, what you're going to make on a death match isn't going to cover your copay when you have to go to the hospital.
Right. It's not going to cover your medical expenses should something go wrong.
And unfortunately, we see all too many times that things do go wrong. And the glass tubes really make me uncomfortable because when I was a kid, we were told that gas inside of those don't break those fluorescent bulbs because that gas is not good for you.
Right. I have met guys that will take the ends off and drain that gas out beforehand. but there's also guys that don't.
Yeah.
There's guys that don't gimmick their weapons, so to speak. And a lot of the time, that's where stuff gets really sketchy. When it comes to me and when I'm working a match with that sort of element, I'm very hands-on with the weapons I use. Like, if I'm using barbed wire and it needs to be gimmicked for whatever reason, I've got my hands on it. I'm the one doing it. Because, like, I want to make sure that I'm going to be doing it the best way I can, the safest way I can. Because at the end of the day, I want to go home to that little girl right there.
Yes,
At the end of the day, if somebody out there they've got a kid, they want to go home to that kid. So if I'm working this kind of match and they request a little bit of a gimmick, hey, cool, whatever. Now, there is a running joke that I've never bled in a match before, which, not for lack of trying. Oh, dude.
Heck, I'm a referee and I've bled in a match.
It is a running joke that I have the hardest head in the business. Because there has been several occasions where I should have bled and it didn't come out.
Yeah.
So if you look right here, you can see a gig mark in my forehead.
And it just
it was from the match with Ty Tyson. The mark's right there.
Yeah.
But if you watch that footage, there was no blood.
And hey, I want to make, before everybody starts jumping on me about a referee bleeding, because I know how y'all are, I accidentally got hit in the nose by Charlie Haas. He backhanded me and got me in the nose, and it just ripped.
Oh, dude. So the other one was a tag team match, and you might have saw it. It was us versus the Black Society. It was Lazarus Black and Ryan Mantis. And Lazarus drapes me over the rope, brings the barbed wire bat, bam, right on the forehead. Nothing at all. There was a point I tried to gig with one of the barbs. Nothing. I go back to where we were staying that night, and you just see pinholes all in my forehead. All over. Like, you could have played Connect the Dots. There was no blood whatsoever. So there's a running joke that I have, like, the hardest head right now.
Well, see, that you ought to start using it then.
The hardest head?
Use it as a weapon.
I dish out my fair share of headbutts.
You don't have to be a Samoan to shake off a headbutt.
Oh, old Jacob Fatu.
Oh, it was that way. Even back. Well,
Haku, Jacob Fatu, the Wild Samoans. I've seen them all shake them off a couple times.
I had the Samoan SWAT team, so I had Samu and Fatu.
Samu and Fatu, yeah. Oh, dude, Jacob Fatu nowadays, in my opinion, that dude is on top of the Samoan wrestling dynasty right now.
That dude is probably, in my opinion, the best Samoan wrestler going. I'm so excited that he's finally there, and I don't think we've even began to see what he can do.
No disrespect at all to Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns and the Usos, but right now, Jacob Fatu is at that top tier of the Samoan wrestling dynasty right now, and I'm loving every minute of it.
He's been there, though. In 2022, in Chicago, I refereed the Wrestling Showcase, and that was my first time around him, and it blew my mind the things he could do.
Right, man. That is definitely somebody that I see doing a lot of really great things in the very near future.
Yes. You can't deny that kind of talent.
Especially now with Triple H running the show over there. You know, with Triple H over there, like, he's going to give Fatu the direction he needs, and we're going to see that dude do a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I'm 100% all for everything we've seen him do so far.
Well, I think that I wouldn't be surprised by WrestleMania season if he's not moving up. because they announced today that they're going to do they're fighting to be the tribal chief on the first Netflix show.
Right, that's Solo and Roman.
So if Solo loses, I can see
Jacob kind of veer off on his own, which I can see it, because I mean that could lead to things that like the Rumble or even Mania.
yeah, back up. Now let me show you how to do it.
Right. There's a lot that can come out of that, and nothing against Sikoa. Sikoa's a great talent, but in my mind, Jacob Fatu has the potential to be everything Umaga should have been.
Oh yes, and to your point about Solo, when Solo was just bodying people before, when he got there, he was what I thought Solo was. Jacob is. I mean,
like I said, Sikoa is a great talent to watch, but Jacob Fatu, man, that dude's he is the package. Like, he's the whole package.
Yeah. And I mean, he moves like a cruiserweight.
Right. And I mean, that dude's
just smooth.
Right. Like, everything he does is like butter, dude. Which is, right now, he is definitely that shining star of that bloodline faction. Without a doubt.
And we still haven't seen Zilla yet.
Right. Zilla hasn't shown up yet. Whatever happened to Tamina?
I think she retired.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think recently she retired.
I don't know, dude, because that
they
was
didn't make a
somebody
big
else.
deal about it, but it seemed like I read she retired.
Because that was somebody else that had a ton of potential for that women's division. And it was somebody that wasn't overly overrated like some of them that I've seen. But of course, now that
I 100% believe that the only reason Jacob Fatu's in WWE now is because of Triple H.
Oh yeah, Vince would never have signed that dude.
No,
ever. Like, Vince would have passed over that star opportunity, because even to the day he retired or was fired or however that ended, it was a lot of shit. Vince always favored the big, beefy, buff dudes. Like, even when CM Punk was within his WWE title reigns, Vince was still pushing bigger guys, beefier guys, like Mark Henry or Big Show or somebody like that. Then you notice Bryan Danielson took that belt. What happened? He was still trying to push like Batista.
You know what I think it is? I don't think Vince could ever get out of that mindset that he had to have monsters.
I think that was a big part of it.
I was listening to a podcast today, and they were talking about Mr. Perfect not getting a run at Hogan.
Opportunity.
And I was thinking that he's probably because he wasn't seen as a monster.
Right, and to that credit, I mean, that can also play into the Roddy Piper factor. Piper wasn't a monster.
No.
But honestly, back in the 80s and 90s, Vince was a revolutionary back then. But over time, he slowly just lost touch with what those people wanted. He's lost touch with his fan base. He lost touch with the locker room. And he just drifted slowly and slowly into
But when the money keeps growing and growing and growing, you have to be telling yourself that what I'm doing is working.
Right.
So, in his defense, that he doesn't see, because people might not have been watching like they were, but the money just kept getting ridiculous and growing, and people were paying more for it. And I don't think that he was worried about. I think he thought what he was doing was right because the bottom line kept growing.
Right. The bottom line kept growing. And of course, like right there at that time period, because I mean, it was that time like 20, 2014-ish, where it was just a lot of ridiculous like nonsense. But you still had people buying in. You still had that gross just slowly climbing because I mean, people were willing to watch more of it with like their kids. So it was geared more towards like children at that point in time instead of now where it's geared more towards wrestling fans.
Yes.
And dude,
Wrestling's no longer, it's not a dirty word anymore.
Right, wrestling is not a bad word anymore. Like I never thought I would see the day that we would hear the word professional wrestling used in WWE until after Triple H took over. And what that dude is doing right now is incredible. He has taken this company back to heights that it hasn't seen in years. And on top of that, he's bringing in talent that Vince would have never touched, that are going to turn into stars in WWE, or that have already turned into stars in WWE. Exhibit A, Motor City Machine Guns, one of the best tag teams in the modern era. Vince probably would have never touched them.
No,
Triple H got his hands on them, and bam.
I couldn't believe that London and Spanky would get that they did as good as they did because they were not the norm for what they lacked.
Right. And like, I mean, you got Motor City Machine Guns, you've got Stephanie Vacour, you've got she changed her name to Zarya, you've got Julia. Like, there's so many fresh talents that Vince probably would have never touched.
No.
Coming in there right off the bat and just bangers, like,
and
fire.
His Japanese talent, even his Scottish, Irish, English, because he's letting them do their things, and he doesn't have a problem putting subtitles up if he needs to, because it's a global company. We're seeing more and more events outside of the USA, and what they're doing with Shinsuke Nakamura right now, I am all for it. It's the Great Kabuki. It's a modernized version of the Great Kabuki.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. Because when I became a fan, Kabuki was the main heel, and I was scared of him.
Right. Then, of course, you've got the rumblings of Pentagon Jr. heading over to WWE. That is going to make shockwaves in WWE. Like, Penta has been a top-tier talent everywhere that dude has been. It sucks that under these circumstances, Phoenix isn't joining him for the time being, but I digress.
Oh, but they can play it so right that Phoenix shows up just in time to save him from.
Oh, dude, it's gonna be
or the you know what I'm trying to say.
Right, it's gonna be at least a year before Phoenix heads over, though.
But when he gets there,
right.
It might be right. It'll be when Penta needs a new coat of paint.
When that finally happens and we see the Lucha Bros hit WWE, you put those guys in there with War Raiders, with DIY, with Motor City Machine Guns, with Legado, with any of those tag teams, and you're gonna get a magic fight.
So it's really, really exciting time.
Right. So it's going to be all about sitting and waiting for Phoenix, but I'm excited to see what Penta does in the time he's there by himself. Because, I mean, even then, you've got Rey Mysterio over there in WWE, which that right there, Penta and Rey, would be an incredible match to sit back and watch.
Dream match.
Of course.
It's a dream match.
Honestly, I would have said Ricochet had he stuck around. But, of course, he's over at AEW doing his thing now. Which, I don't fault anybody for going over to AEW. I just, in my mind, there's a lot of stuff that can be fixed, but I'm not going to get into all that right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've got a laundry list yourself.
Well, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but I'm old. So some of the newer stuff, I just need it to make sense. But hey, Jeff, but with Jeff, when Jeff Jarrett's on, man, I'm the happiest guy in the world. That guy's killing
dude.
it. That guy's doing the Edge. Edge was killing it. Christian is the best he's ever been.
So the thing that's got me with AEW right now is it's a lot of big spots with little to no prep or meaning behind them or reason. To me, it's a lack of storytelling. There's stories there, but they're leaving huge gaps within that story. Like when Edge did the barbed wire steel cage with Malachi Black, when I sit there and watch that feud, there was no need for a barbed wire steel cage. That was just blood for the sake of blood. And Edge broke his ankle because of it.
Yeah. And I'm gonna criticize WWE also. When you have a talent like Edge that's been on the shelf and he comes back to wrestling, maybe we just put him in the ring and let him wrestle, because he can do that.
Right.
Not fight on top of a school bus. And you did that. I mean, they did that whole thing where they wrestled they wrestled all over that building and
right.
And
yeah, that was like their first.
Let's not do extra things to hurt this guy.
Right, like that was one of my biggest concerns with him coming over to AEW was, while yes, they're going to let him get in the ring and wrestle, but when you run into situations like a barbed wire steel cage just for the sake of it, now he's in a lot more danger.
Yeah.
Like all it's going to take is Edge to come back, and it's going to be one wrong thing. I think for AEW, it's going to be figuring out when it's time to add that more violent stuff, as opposed to here it is just for the sake of it. I get people enjoy it. I enjoy watching it, but make it make sense.
When I was a kid, steel cage match was a blow off.
Right.
We put the cage up, and it wasn't to try to escape the cage. It was try to keep everybody in, keep everybody out. You still pretty much had to follow the rules of wrestling in the cage. You couldn't get in the ropes, but the cage was there, and you could use it as a weapon. I mean, you see them put their faces in it and rub it, but you knew when it was a steel cage match time or a Texas death match, we've come to a point where we're trying to settle something.
Right. And while a lot of that stuff is on my bucket list to do, like I would love to do a Texas death match. I would love to do a steel cage match. I want it to make sense when the time comes for me to do it. Like one of the guys right now that I'm a big fan of, he gets a lot of criticism, but honestly, he's somebody that I pattern a lot of my in-ring style after, is Jon Moxley. Big fan of the dude. I love everything he does right now. Ever since he went on to AEW, his star power has increased tenfold. He's doing what he loves. And whether it's he gets in there and straight up wrestles, he gets in there and does hardcore, or even if he goes in there, and I don't know if you've ever seen Josh Barnett's Bloodsport on GCW's pay-per-views, Moxley's on fire right now.
Yeah.
But one of the things with his feud with Kenny Omega, back when AEW first started, immediately they went to a lights out unsanctioned match.
Right. Heck, I've seen them do a Texas death match in a tournament.
Right.
Like everybody else is in this bracket, but we're going to make ours a Texas death match.
Right. Moxley is bar none one of the toughest dudes in the business. And when I say I pattern a lot of my style after him, I don't do everything he does for the sake of. Like, I do a lot of his mannerisms, a lot of the way I conduct myself in the ring. It's a big part of woven into my character, but he's not the only one that's there. If you ever get a chance to actually watch me in the ring or watch how I cut my promos, Moxley's not the only one that's there. There were several that had that influence on me. But, like, when he did that, when it was the feud with Omega, they went straight to unsanctioned. Then, if I'm not mistaken, there was a gap there for the longest time where they didn't touch each other. And then it was the barbed wire match at Revolution.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, there was a gap there where they just didn't do anything with each other.
I've come around on Moxley. But I convinced myself that he had to have gimmicks. I'm like, he can't work. He needs props. He can't work. It's easier to use gimmicks than actually get in there and work.
Right.
And now I'm seeing him work a little more. So I admit that I may have misjudged him, and I might have been spot on. It just might have been,
The only thing I wish would change about Moxley is stop bleeding all the damn time.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I get it. If you ever have a chance to watch it, go on Triller, which was Fight TV. I don't know if you have that or not.
I do.
Okay. Have you ever watched any of the Bloodsport events?
I saw. I've seen clips. I've never actually sat down and watched one, but I was amazed that MVP went against Josh Barnett the other night.
So it's the no ropes. There's no high flying spots. It's straight wrestling. Like, it's submission or knockout. Like, it's presented as a real fight. But go on there and watch like Moxley versus Barnett. They tore the house down.
Go on there. I have seen that.
Bloodsport Bushido. That was the one I'm referring to. They went in there and tore the house down. Or when you see John Moxley go in there with Biff Busick, that match was just a spectacle to see, and it was just straight violent wrestling, which was really cool to see. So I'm a big supporter of Bloodsport because I like being able to see, in a world where high flying and flippy doos and super kicks. God forbid you ever see me use a super kick in the ring.
You know what the new super kick is right now?
The Canadian Destroyer?
No, it's running in the ring with a black hoodie on.
Yeah, that good point.
That's the new super kick. I miss them. Just turn the lights out. I never thought I'd say I miss turning the lights out. But it doesn't matter what channel it is. Whoever comes in the ring now is wearing a hoodie.
Yeah, it's a black hoodie.
Black hoodie.
The infamous black hoodie, just like the infamous black bag that comes out from under the ring. But yeah, it's in a world, like I said, where dude, I was raised on the notation that a super kick ended the match. I grew up watching Shawn Michaels. Super kick was a finisher. And now you've got guys like the Young Bucks doing them 20, 30, 40 times in a match.
My first exposure to the Young Bucks, I caught Ring of Honor. I was in a hotel in Alabama, and I caught late night Ring of Honor, and they put a counter. They put a counter on the corner of the screen, and it said Super Kick Party. And every time they threw a super kick, the counter would go up.
Yep.
And I grew up, you said Shawn Michaels, but before him, it was Gentleman Chris Adams.
Yeah.
He's doing the super kick.
See, the Young Bucks, the biggest thing that gets me about them is if you've seen one Young Bucks match, you've seen them all. It's the same formula. The only difference is if you put them in a match with like no disqualification, they might put a shoe with thumbtacks on that super kick.
I will not change my opinion of the Young Bucks. I can't argue their success. They're very successful at what they do. But if I never got booked again for my opinion of the Young Bucks, I'd be okay with it. They cannot tell a story in the ring in the framework of the rules. And they get their shit in. They bury the referee. It's all funny, ha ha.
Yep.
I'm not telling you I ain't never seen a good Young Bucks match. I'd be lying if I said that. But they will not let the rules get in the way of getting their shit in, and that's what annoys me so bad.
Even the damn Anarchy in the Arena shit they did earlier this year, and they were so concerned with getting their shit in that a guy like Darby Allin, his health was in legit fucking peril because of it.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. Darby Allin brings a lot of it on himself. I will say that. I respect the hell out of Darby. Don't get me wrong. Dude is up there with the toughest, craziest dudes in this business right now. I don't think he's going to live past 40.
I can't see how with what he does.
I love Darby Allin. I'm a big fan of his. Dude, I've got pictures on my phone from the AEW show me and my wife went to, and Darby hijacked my phone and started taking pictures of the ring crew. Like, Darby's a good dude. I love what he does in the ring. I don't see him.
He makes me uncomfortable because I know the stuff he does. There's no way to protect yourself.
This dude is not going to have a long career. You're looking at a dude. Darby Allin broke his foot, got hit by a damn bus within the span of about 2 weeks, and at the end of the month was wrestling in that Anarchy in the Arena match. And the finish for that match was legitimately Darby is bleeding from his head. The Young Bucks hoist him up with an anchor, and he's dangling upside down in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
For like minutes on end. And like the blood, he's already split, so that blood is rushing right out.
Yeah.
On top of that, they hung him by his broken foot. So, like, at a point where it gets to be less about working and more about just getting your shit in, to a point of you've now put somebody in legitimate peril, that's where I'm kind of like, okay, maybe not. To this day, I still don't know why Bryan Danielson was in that match.
Yeah.
Didn't need to do it. Bryan Danielson is bar none one of the best professional wrestlers of all time. And with this point in his career, with the injuries he has had, that match was unnecessary for Bryan. AEW should...
Less is more.
AEW's concerns, as far as guys like Bryan and Edge go, should be less about getting the shit in and more about preserving these guys so that they can give you more memories. I mean, that match Bryan had with Swerve back in All In, Bryan was dropped on the back of his neck like several times. And that's what concerns me about AEW, is it's less about storytelling and more about, hey, look what I'm doing.
Oh yeah, I mean even the spot where Swerve was drinking Hangman's blood.
Right. So Swerve and Hangman's story, I could get behind it in the later portions of it.
Yeah.
Because like at that point in time, like Hangman set Swerve's house on fire. Okay, I can see you wanting an unsanctioned match with this guy. I get it. That's at a point, maybe that's something you do. But Swerve Strickland's another one. Like, he'll do it, but he doesn't need to. Like, Swerve didn't need to do the staple gun and the drinking the blood and he didn't need to do all that.
Yeah, there comes a point when you make me so uncomfortable I can't enjoy it. And I worry about you guys. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. There's nothing worse than seeing one of you guys get hurt.
Man, I have had concussions in the ring before, and they're not fun. I mean, one of the matches I did with Psycho Carl, I don't know if you've seen this one. It was a street fight. It got posted on the Strong Style Pro page. Have you ever seen?
Now, while we're talking about it, so I can find it. Is that strong? Is that on Facebook or is it a YouTube channel?
Facebook.
Okay, because I was searching YouTube and I just kept coming up with New Japan Strong.
Yeah, most of the stuff is on Facebook.
Okay.
So, did you ever see Cactus Jack and Terry Funk swing steel chairs at each other?
Yes.
That's what we did. And that was at a point, dude, me and Carl, we were the longest standing feud in Strong Style Pro. So I debuted in 2016, 2017, immediately got thrown into a feud with Carl. Our feud carried on from 2016, 2017 up to 2023. And every time we went in there, we would go in there, we'd find new ways to tear the house down. And that by far stands as like one of my favorite matches because the fans ate that whole thing up. But also back to the less is more thing, there's so many people that were just concerned about, oh, this is going to look great on camera, but they don't consider the long-term effects. That's why you don't see me do the Terry Funk spot too often. I'm going to throw out a very controversial name right here. Chris Benoit. I am not afraid to say that name. He's not Voldemort.
No.
Chris Benoit.
I'm not in the camp that because the circumstances that his life ended, and I'm not letting him off the hook for what he did, but I'm not going to act like he didn't ever do anything in wrestling business.
Chris Benoit was by far one of the greatest professional wrestlers ever. By far. I have my own opinions on how his life ended. I have done like the studying on the crime case. I have seen the Dark Side of the Rings. There's been true crime podcasts that have covered this. I don't believe we got the full story. I believe there was a lot of missing pieces. I believe maybe it didn't end exactly how everybody said. But that's a controversial topic. Might get a little bit of heat going, so I'm not going to cover all of that. All I'm going to say is there was some stuff that pointed to maybe it didn't end exactly that way. But regardless of what he did or did not do, you can't discount what he did in the ring.
Right.
I mean,
it's back to being believable. It was back to being believable, and he was always believable.
Now, I have no doubts that he had CTE. I have no doubts. Whenever you saw that dude take a chair shot, like, you felt it. Like, I have never seen Chris Benoit put his hands up for a chair, ever.
Right.
So when you combine that with years of diving off the top rope head first, and you know more often than not he hit his head on that canvas or the other person's head.
Yeah.
And you take and you couple all of that with a certain billionaire not giving a damn about your health, just wanting you to look good. I have no doubts he had brain damage.
Oh, I believe that 100%.
Honestly, I firmly believe had that certain billionaire, we all know who I'm talking about, had he have done just a little bit better taking care back then, just a little bit better, maybe it wouldn't have ended like the story says.
Yeah.
I'm not straight up going to say it's everybody's fault, but I am going to say there should have been a little bit more care within Benoit's health.
Well, luckily now we know what we didn't know. And I mean, it's not just wrestling. We've had problems with football players, and so it's.
And props to Christopher Nowinski for all that studies he did, dude.
Yes.
Props to Nowinski for that.
He's brought a lot of attention to it.
Right. Like, Chris Nowinski, man, like, he did okay as a wrestler, but honestly, he's made so many strides in his current field, dude, which is amazing to see.
He kind of had a big. He kind of had a nice backup plan.
Right, and it works.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, dude, I mean, and you got to think, there's so many out there that just have these wild backup plans you never would have thought of. Like, if you'd have told me back in 06, 07 that Muhammad Hassan would be a high school principal right now.
Yeah.
Like,
who knew Bradshaw knew the stock market?
Right? Like, who knew the Bella twins would be in like realty and clothing sales?
It's just
it's wild. Like, we're like, I don't know how I'd react if Nikki Bella tried to sell me a house.
Yeah, she'd probably sell me the house.
Dude,
she'd convince me that I like the house.
right? Yeah, oh yeah, she convinced you. Yeah. Anyway, dude, I just bid on a autographed picture of her last night, actually, because I still collect memorabilia and everything, and I'm working on building up my collection of autographs.
I don't know if you noticed behind me,
Dude.
and that's just one wall.
Yeah, you can't see the wall over there. It's got all of them on it, but like I've got Jim Cornette and Mickey James and ODB and Abyss, Matt Morgan, Bobby Fish. Mickey James is a sweetheart, by the way.
The best.
One of the nicest people I've ever. Same with ODB, man. Like you would look at ODB.
Crazy.
You would look at ODB's character. You would look at her character and just think pure white trash. But dude, that chick is amazing. The night I met her was awesome.
And that's not a gimmick.
Right.
She can drink.
Oh, dude. So the story of how I met her. So I was 15, 16 at the time. Maybe 17. I can't remember right off the top of my head. Long story short, my dad was living in Roanoke at the time. And he was working security for TGI Fridays. And so the girl he was dating at the time asked me if I wanted to ride to go pick him up from work. And I said, yeah, cool, whatever. I'm like, fine. Maybe he'll give me some fries. I'm riding in the car, and my dad calls me while I'm sitting in the passenger seat. He goes, hey, you watch TNA, right? I said, yeah. He said, do you know who ODB and Abyss are? And I said, yeah, Abyss is like one of my favorite guys from TNA. Because back in TNA's heyday, Abyss was like one of my favorites to watch. Still is. Like I'll still sit down and watch his matches from like 2005. Like it's crazy.
There was a television match with him and Lance Archer that's still one of my all-time favorite Lance Archer matches.
The steel cage with AJ Styles ranks up there for me. But my dad tells me, he goes, well, they're up here at the bar drinking. And I was like, okay. And he said, they got a ring announcer dude with them too. He's like, I didn't catch his name. It was Jeremy Borash. He said, I think that's what they said. And so I told him, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. I told him, I was like, well, I'm on the way. We're coming to pick you up. And he said, okay, cool. Like, I'll see if I can't snag an autograph for you. I was like, all right, that'd be awesome. Because I figured they won't go be there by the time I got there. About 10 minutes go by. My phone rings again, and it's my dad's number. I answer the phone, and it's Abyss on the other line. And hey, brother, how you doing? This is Abyss. And I was like, oh, shit. He said, yeah, your dad was talking to us, told us you're a big fan, so we're going to sit down here at TGI Fridays and wait for you so that we can meet you. And I got real giddy because, like I said, dude, I'm a big fan of Abyss, and I love what ODB does. And so I get to TGI Fridays, and they're standing out in the parking lot with my dad. It's Jeremy, it's ODB, it's Abyss. I'm 6'3", and I had to look up at Abyss. Like, I'm sitting there, hey, how you doing? Three of the coolest people I ever met. ODB goes into the trunk of the car, pulls out her bag, and I just see her throwing bras and panties and ring gear off to the side to dig out her 8x10s. She digs out her 8x10s. She signs it, and Abyss just goes, fuck, I don't have my 8x10s. So him and Jeremy signed the back of ODB's. And then, ODB finally puts all of her unmentionables back in the bag, pushes it back in the truck. Jeremy grabs his, and he starts digging through it. And I'm sitting there going, wait, Jeremy Borash has 8x10s? He just signed ODB's. He pulls out the microphone that he does the ring announcing with for TNA. And he comes over there and he poses for a picture with me like he's interviewing me. He lets me hold it. He lets me hold the microphone. I'm sitting there. Part of me couldn't figure out why the hell he travels with the mic in his bag.
Yeah. Yeah, your dad was never cooler than he was that night, was he?
Dude. So My dad is not the biggest of wrestling fans anymore. Like back when it was Ric Flair and Harley Race, he loved it. He's not the biggest of fans of it now, but he's always supported me and my love for it, as has like my mother and my uncle and the rest of my family.
Do they
Dude,
go
it
watch it?
was. Oh, dude, yeah, they're at as many shows as they can be.
Well, that's good.
One of my biggest supporters, unfortunately, is no longer with us. Was actually my grandmother. My grandma, in the late stages of her life, made my sister drive her 5 hours down to North Carolina to go see me wrestle one night.
Oh wow.
Like, my grandma was at every single show I was on the poster for. If my name was in that program somewhere, my grandma was there. Like, it didn't matter if I was in Virginia, it didn't matter if I was in North Carolina, she was there.
That's awesome.
And she had this weird thing. You would always find her in the exact same seat, no matter where we were. She would always be sitting. So the barricades here, entryway, she would always be sitting right there next to the entryway ringside. That was always her seat. That's where she picked. And she would heckle the guys. She would yell at them, scream at them, fucking pick with them. It was great.
So she was a wrestling fan before you started then.
Yeah, dude, like my grandma was big into it. And then when I got into it, she was like all for it.
See, I had a grandmother like that too, and she never saw me do what I was doing, but she used to tell me and my brother that my grandfather would take her to the sportatorium and they had box seats, and she'd talk about Duke Kiamuka and Johnny Valentine and how the beer vendors would come out and they'd pop the beer tops, and the wrestlers would get out of the ring and get the bottle tops and use them, put them in the trunks, and then pull them out and headlock and cut their heads up with them. And
man,
my grandmother actually went. We took her to the wrestling matches on Christmas of 1982. Me and my brother and my grandmother actually went to wrestling. And this is my grandmother that you would never think would be caught dead. This is my bougie grandmother. And but we had a good time with her. There was the night that they slammed the steel cage on Kerry Von Erich's head.
Oh, dude, I remember seeing that night. Man, so obviously I'm 28. I'm a lot younger than you.
Yeah.
You would think I wouldn't have appreciation for something like this, or you think I wouldn't hold it as close to my heart. I met Nikolai Volkov, one of the favorite dudes I've met in this business. I didn't get a chance to get in there and roll with him like I did Arn, but I was working the same show as he was, and at that point, I was used to being the young cat in the locker room. I was like 18, 19 years old. So I'm used to being the young boy. And anybody that's met Nikolai knows he's legit Russian. That's his thing. He's actually Russian. But when I met him, he was dressed like a stereotypical grandpa. Like, he is in sweatpants. He is in this cute little grandpa sweater that's got like a duck on it. And he's got his Russian hat on. I can't remember what it's called, but you know, the double ear.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's got that on.
Birkin or something like that. Or
I can't remember what it's called.
I know what you're talking about.
So we were in the locker room, and I'm sitting beside Nikolai, and Dougie Delicious was sitting in the locker room across from me, and Nikolai sitting there showing us fucking card tricks. He's just card tricks, just grandpa shit. And he looks over at me and he goes, "Young boy, what's your name?" And I said, "My name's James, sir." Hey, James, what's the most dangerous food you can ever eat? Causes nausea, vomiting, suicidal thoughts or actions, extreme depression, diarrhea. Like, he lists off all these insane symptoms. And I said, "Well, Nikolai, I don't know. What is it?" He goes, "Wedding cake." About an hour later, I'm walking with him. And this was almost a year to the day before he passed. He was still wrestling. I walked up to Gorilla with him that night. And I walk up to Gorilla with him. He's just talking to me, just like me and you were talking right now. Talking to me like he's known me for years. One of the nicest guys I've ever met. We're standing there. We're standing behind the curtain. I wasn't going out with him. we were just talking, and we start hearing them chant USA, USA at the Russian gimmick that was in the ring. And Nikolai leans over. Hey, young boy, why they chant USA? I don't know why. Up your sister's ass. His music hits. He walks out the curtain. That was the last thing Nikolai Volkov ever said to me.
Wow. What a great story.
I loved meeting Nikolai, dude. I've met some really cool and influential people. Some of them have said the most crazy off-the-wall shit to me that just sticks in my brain. Like, it's burned in there forever. Simon Gotch or Simon Grimm. I have heard this dude, the day I met him, I openly heard him refer to another wrestler as a walking abortion. Dude, I walked up to him and I sit down beside him and I'm talking to him. And I'm still a young dude at this point in time. I'm asking as many of the guys here at this little convention thing I'm at for advice. Like, I'm trying to pick everybody's brain.
Right.
So I'm sitting there with Simon, and he looks at me. He goes, "You want my advice?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Fuck everybody's advice." He said, "If what you're doing works for you, don't let nobody tell you to stop fucking doing it." He said, "You do what works for you." Followed by, "If you really want any advice I can give you, don't be like," and I'm not going to say the dude's name because I'm trying not to trash people here.
It's all right.
But anybody that's ever watched Simon Gotch can probably tell who I'm talking about. Tells me, "Don't be like this guy. He's a walking abortion." And proceeds to tell me a story about how this unnamed wrestler is at the PC one day trying to tell The Undertaker that he doesn't know how to cut a promo. Not that the kid doesn't know how to cut a promo, that Undertaker doesn't know how to cut a promo.
Oh, my God.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Then, of course, like, there was Tracy Smothers. He was there that day.
That dude was a character.
Man, I met him, and I sat down, and I asked him for his advice. He said, "Hey, can you do me a favor before I talk to you?" And I looked at him, I said, "Okay." He said, "Go let my students in, then I'll talk to you." I can't remember much of the conversation after that. That was just the first thing he said to me. You want to talk about a character or a guy that lives his gimmick? Theodore Long. That dude is his gimmick. I met him. I was sitting there talking to him. I asked him to take a picture with me. And he got talking really fast, like Teddy Long fast. And I could have swore it sounded like he said he was going to charge me to take the picture with me. I said, "Did you just say you were going to charge me?" He said, "If you don't shut the hell up, I'm going to charge you, playa. Holla, holla, holla." I start cracking up. He said, "Now stop laughing before I put you in a tag team match with The Undertaker."
I like that Teddy started as a referee, and the night they decided to make him a referee, they needed a referee shirt. So they went to a restaurant called the Varsity in Atlanta because it was right down the street from the studio, and everybody that worked at the Varsity wore referee shirts. So his referee shirt came from the hot dog place in Atlanta.
That's great. Oh, dude.
Well, I've kept you twice as long as I intended to.
I guess that means it was a good conversation.
I've enjoyed it.
I don't think we've even put a dent in what we can cover.
I know it.
Might have to come back for a round two if you'll have me.
I will. Love to have you back. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Dude, so I am horrible about social media. All of my stuff goes on Facebook. I have Instagram. I have TikTok. I just never check them. So if y'all want any information on my upcoming shows, Facebook is your best friend. I'm trying to get better about my social media management, but I'm not a social media guy.
Do you have anything before North Carolina?
At the moment, no. I decided I was going to take a little bit of time off, being that it's my daughter's first Christmas. Her first birthday is coming up. I'm just kind of like mellowing out, taking some time off before I start, hitting the ground running again. Funny enough, my first booking is actually the day of her first birthday party. We are going on a trip to North Carolina immediately following.
Oh.
So literally, as soon as I do all this, I'm getting back in.
Well, I'll give you a piece of advice when it comes to those kids. Enjoy every minute of it while they're small, because
Man,
this weekend I'm gonna go spend Christmas. We're gonna do Christmas with my daughter, and they're fixing to turn 38 and 36.
man.
I don't know
So
where we're at.
she comes with me to training because like I help train at the place I was trained at now.
Okay.
So she comes with me to class from time to time. And one night I was in the ring before anybody else got there, and I set the car seat just in the corner and let her watch. And I was sitting there rolling around, taking my bumps, working with the dummy. And she's in the corner laughing, giggling, having a grand old time. Next thing you know, the bumps had put her to sleep from where the ring was shaking.
Well, that's the best, man. That's the best way to end it.
Yeah.
Do you have a merch store? You have merch available?
So there are some Sons of Rebellion merch available on Pro Wrestling Tees.
Okay.
As far as any other merch goes, contact me directly and I will get you guys hooked up.
Gotcha. Well, I wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas, a safe New Year.
You as well. My Christmas will be filled with Bluey.
Paw Patrol over here.
Oh, dude, Ava is a not Paw Patrol, Bluey fanatic, dude. Like, I don't even know where it went.
My 1-year-old grandson watches. I mean, they just Bluey, just one episode after the other.
Oh, dude. So the guy that trained me bought her. It's a 2-foot tall stuffy of the Bingo character from Bluey for Christmas. It's got the Christmas hat on and everything. I think it's as big as that child is. And then, of course, like we've got like this little Bluey Christmas animatronic over here that my wife had me buy. The Bluey video games done made its way into the house so that like I can play it and let my daughter watch. They're decking me out in Bluey shirts now.
Could be worse. Could be Barney.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I'll take Julia and Bluey.
Well, all right, James. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you for
Glad
having
to have
me.
you back again with Amy. We'll get Amy on here, and
Well, let's get it hooked up. I'm down for a round 2.
we'll do it. We'll do that in 2025.
Maybe one day I'll come make my way to your neck of the woods.
I hope to see you down here.
I'd do it. Do it in a heartbeat.
All right.
I need a road trip.
All right, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, James Harris. James, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, y'all. That was James Harris. We left a lot on the table there, but we've been going for an hour and a half, so we'll get him back in. And but before we go, I need to tell you about Big Time Belts. Big Time Belts, Facebook.com. Big Time Belts, high quality, low prices. You go to Facebook, join the group. If you can dream it, we can make it. The SWA Tag Team Wrestling Champions got their belts from Big Time Belts. The Flying V Fighting Champion went to Big Time Belts. Sam Houston wanted commemorative tag team belts from his tag team, the Renegades. And he also got a replica of the Central States title that he had. And Sam Houston, you look at him there, he's happy because he went to Big Time Belts. Tim Robinson made his belt dreams come true. 15 years after his promotion stopped, he finally got the AMW belts made. The tag belt, I believe, is my favorite one. But we've the Hood Mart Lucha Libre champion came from Big Time Belts. I like the side plates there with the Let the Good Times Roll. The Arkansas Open Weight Champion. That belt is beautiful. Beautiful belt. And their champion is styling and profiling thanks to Big Time Belts. Getting married? Celebrate it with belts. September 7th, 2024. They're 3 months in. And if it goes south, they can give each other belt shots. The Ram Network. The Ram Network's fantasy football belt. That's what he came up with. I told him I wanted it Big Eagle style. Instead of a WWE logo, I wanted a football. Wanted to put Fantasy Football Champion on there. Got the filter-free Popcast, the Big Time Belts logo, the Talking Wrestling logo, the TNA Top 10 logos. That was the concept art. And this is the finished product. Big Time Belts made our belt dreams come true. And we can't thank him enough for sponsoring our podcast. The season's winding down. The playoffs are going. I'm hoping that my wife can pull it out so I don't have to send this belt off, because it's going to break my heart to have to ship it off. And we thank Big Time Belts for sponsoring our show. We thank Big Time Belts for sponsoring our fantasy football league. Facebook.com, high quality, low prices, Big Time Belts. Amy will be back. Our next show is going to be January the 8th. We're going to do a couple of best ofs. We're going to take a couple weeks off. We're going to go out and look at the pond and count our blessings. We're thankful for each and every one of y'all. We hope you have a safe and happy holiday season. And we'll see you back here January 8th for our next exciting 2025 year of oh, wait a minute. I forgot to tell y'all about the Ram Network. Let's look at me. Without Amy, I'm lost. Patreon.com/Ram Network for just $5 a month. All the bonus content that you can handle. We have world-class flashback. Timmy C and myself are watching 1983 World-Class Championship Wrestling. And y'all know 1983 is my favorite year of professional wrestling. We have eras. We have footballers. Dave and the HSV and Timmy are trying to tell you how to bet on football and make some money. We have an audience with the Belt Pope is long overdue for another episode. But at the Ram Network, we are cranking it out the best we can. And coming soon, Portland Wrestling. Portland Wrestling is going to be a big deal. We have access to the Portland Wrestling Library. Portland has not been touched that much. I think we're very excited that we're going to be able to bring that to the Ram Network. This week on the TNA Top 10, they did the top 10 Christmas movies. But they start running together on me. Terry, Allison, and Andrew do a great job. When you see them put their poll out on social media, pick your top 10. It makes their show so much better when an audience participates. Just an incredible podcast. It's a fun listen. Those guys keep it loose, and Allison keeps them on time. And so there you go. I want to thank everybody again, and we will see you January the 8th on Talking Wrestling with Palm Water Dave. Good night.